Well, welcome everyone to this week's webinar. I hope everybody's doing well. It's great to see everyone. If you don't know who I am Bruce Rosenblatt. I am the owner of Senior Housing Solutions, and we provide advice for people who are searching for senior housing. We also have, I've also developed a network of senior housing advisors across the United States. And so I have people, I think there's somebody here on this webinar from Pittsburgh and somebody from Houston. I know you all were talking about New York. And so we have advisors who do what I do across the United States. So I try to be a resource for people and try to do whatever I can to educate people about different services. This week's presenter is a friend of mine. We've been on a number of panels together. Ted Capuano from Care Funding Solutions. Ted is the what I would consider the expert on veterans benefits, and so also I wanted to thank all the veterans who are on this call, or the children, or the people who have served our country. So thank you for your service. So I'm going to let Ted take it from here. And Ted, I'm sure people are very anxious to hear what you have to say, and I'm sure there's some questions for you as well. So
great, I appreciate that. Good morning, everyone. As Bruce said, I'm Ted Capuano with Care Funding Solutions. I am also a VA accredited agent, and I try to assist veterans and their families with the benefits that the VA can provide to help fund their long-term care. The VA has a couple different benefits available to veterans. The most popular one, and one that you may be interested in, is what is known as a pension with aid and attendance. And this is designed to provide a financial stipend to our veterans and their families to help pay for their long-term care. The VA has three major criteria in order to qualify for this benefit. I call them the 3 M's. That would include military, medical, and money. Militarily, it's pretty cut and dry. The VA says that you must have served at least 90 consecutive days on active duty, with one of those days during a period of war. Periods of war being World War II, Korean conflict, Vietnam era, and currently the Gulf conflict. There's specific dates for that. So if you fall in with those dates, at least one day, you are eligible militarily. Same would happen for your spouse and or surviving spouse. The only thing on a surviving spouse basis would be if in fact you were married to a wartime veteran and he passed away, or you had a divorce. If you remarried, then you lose your eligibility, unless you remarry, of course, another veteran that would be considered a wartime veteran. The medical qualification is pretty cut and dry as well. The VA says that you must need the assistance of another person for at least 2 activities of daily living, such as eating, dressing, bathing, toileting, transferring, continence or medication management, as long as it's prescribed by a doctor, or be legally blind or cognitively impaired. You must not only need the assistance of another person for those activities of daily living, but you must be receiving those assistance, and you must be paying for that assistance. The VA does not stipulate that you need to be in a facility. You could be at home, as long as you have a third party providing the care and you are paying that third party. Your spouse cannot be your caregiver because you can't pay your spouse, but you can pay your son or daughter or neighbor, or of course a home health agency would qualify for that. Then an assisted living facility would also pretty much qualify you, because you're not there because you want to be there. You're there because you do need that assistance. And that would qualify you under the medical benefit. I can't hear it. Is anybody talking? I see.
Yeah.
I had,
Go ahead.
yeah, I had a question. So do you have to then like put my father into this Keystone in Florida, start paying for it by myself to prove that we are, you know, receiving this and paying for it before the VA can then take it over?
That is correct.
Thank you.
The VA does not have, it's not like insurance. This is a reimbursement.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you meet those two criteria, then you go to the third criteria for the aid and attendance benefit, and that is the money part. And on the money end of it, the VA has two tests that they observe. Okay, one is an income test, and the other is an asset test. The income test is a relationship between how much you have coming in income versus how much you are paying for your care that is unreimbursed by any insurance products, and they recur on a monthly basis. So for example, if you have $3,500 worth of income, gross income, Social Security, pension, whatever it happens to be, and then you are in a facility and you're paying out $4,000 a month for that, obviously at that point you are qualifying for the maximum benefit that the VA would allow, okay? Because you're spending more than you have coming in. Conversely, if you had $3,500 worth of income and you had $3,000 in unreimbursed medical expenses, then you're a little bit over in income. The VA would deduct that from your benefit dollar for dollar, okay? So these unreimbursed medical expenses need to be recurring. So, you know, somebody went to the hospital and had $25,000 worth of co-pays and other things that weren't covered by insurance, that does not count. But your Medicare Part B premiums that everybody pays from their Social Security, that's an unreimbursed medical expense. Your Medicare supplement, if you have a supplemental policy, that's considered an unreimbursed medical expense because it recurs monthly. And of course, then your cost of care. When we talk about assisted living facilities, we're talking room, board, and care. The total amount is an unreimbursed medical expense. If you're home, we're only going to count that portion of the money that you pay for the care. We can't take into consideration the room and board part. Okay. So if you, whatever level you reach there, we can tell you pretty much upfront how much you qualify for. And I'll go over what the benefits are because they're just getting ready to change. And I'll tell you what those would be. A single veteran would, now these figures may be $1 or $2 off because they haven't actually come out with the official numbers yet, but I'm basing it on that Social Security is expected to go up by 1.3% this coming year, and the VA goes up by the same amount. So if that follows suit, then a single veteran, the maximum benefit would be $1,936 per month. A married veteran would be $2,295 per month. The surviving spouse of a wartime veteran would be $1,244 per month. And then we have what is known as an unhealthy spouse. That's where the veteran is still relatively healthy, is not receiving care, but his spouse is sick and needs the assistance of another person. If we can get those numbers to work for them, then that benefit is $1,494 per month. These benefits are all tax-free. They do not interfere with any other income that you are receiving. Okay. Now, in addition to the income test, you have an asset test. All right, and the VA just changed how they calculate assets and so forth back in 2018. And so now it's much more clear as to how much you can have and what is counted than it used to be. So now the VA said,
one
yes.
second. Linda, you have a question?
Well, yeah, I just had a question going back to different categories, Ted. I had two questions.
Yes.
So is there a category for if both husband and wife need to go somewhere? Like the husband's the vet and they both need care?
Yeah, there is this married veteran, they call it, and it's $2,295 per month.
Okay, so that's if for the veteran and spouse. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Because the veteran himself is $1,936. So there's a little bit extra for the spouse.
Veteran, spouse, widow, and then, okay, all right. Thank you.
Sure.
So Ted, since we're kind of talking this subject, can you talk about the retroactive piece to this?
Sure. I'll include that. So let's say we get through let me just go through the asset part, and then I'll go into how the application process works. Okay. So for assets, the VA exempts your home, car, and personal property that you would normally have in your home. Okay, that's all exempt for calculations. However, the VA counts everything else, every bank account, IRAs, etc. And the bright line limit at present time is approximately $131,000. So in other words, you can own a house, a car, personal property, and $131,000 of other assets and still qualify for the benefit. If you have more than the $131,000, does not necessarily mean that you can't qualify. However, there are limited financial opportunities for you. In other words, you can't, we used to be able to just throw money into an irrevocable trust and that would exempt it. But now the VA has imposed a 3-year, 36-month look back period. So if you transfer assets to children or you put them in a trust, then they go back and look at those for 36 months and would still count them. Okay. But there are some things you can do, they're just limited. So if in fact, there's somebody that has a question. Patty?
Yeah, Ted. Now that 131,000, as far as say a bank account, what is above that, that could not be given away, say to children or just to wherever they want. But what about, do they do a look back if you're at the 130,000 mark? Will they look back and say, well, you know, you gave away 25 grand, say last year or something like that?
If you are, in other words, yeah, if you went back and if you gave away, there's a question on the application that
Right,
asked
I saw that.
during the last 36 months, have you transferred any assets?
Mhm.
Where you transfer them, what would you do with them? So
Mhm.
yes, they would look back if you went and gave 25,000 to your children or something like that.
Right. Well, for just as an example, can I just maybe just supposing like my father, for example, bought a car for my
Okay.
use in my name. And that was this past year. Now his assets, you know, would be under that mark. So would they look back on that and say, well, what did you do with the 24,000? Just a question.
That's a good question. You know, when we would complete the application, we would ask the question on transfer of assets. And if it's, you know, buying a car, I don't know how that works out, you know.
Right, as a gift. So, okay. Okay. That's an interesting question because I saw that on the application. And so when you mentioned that if they have above a certain amount, you know, you wouldn't want to give that away because that would be considered a look back. But when you have that, when you're in that category where it's acceptable, do they do a look back at that point and say, you
Again,
could have, yeah.
Again, that question needs to be answered, so however you answer that question.
Yeah,
My dad gave me a car.
yeah,
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't consider that pretty much.
okay, got,
I'd probably overlook it, whether the examiners would overlook that.
would
or not.
overlook it or not. So there would be a
Yes.
question there. Okay,
Yes.
that's a good question.
Yes.
Good
ma'am.
answer. Thank you, Ted.
Oh, Linda, hold on.
Okay. Ted, so what do you recommend in the case where a veteran owns their home and they're moving to assisted living? When they sell their home, that puts them over the resource limits.
That is a great question, because I was going to mention that, because that is in everybody's mind, because most people are transitioning, from home to a facility, and they got to do something with the house.
Mhm.
So if they're going to sell the house, what I recommend, the home is an exempt asset. When you sell it, it becomes a countable asset. So the way around that is you are allowed to transfer exempt assets. So what we recommend is transferring the home into an irrevocable residence trust, okay? In the state of Florida, you can do that, and that home would still maintain homestead exemption and its tax status. However, the home would be out of the person's name. When the home sells, the funds would go directly into that trust, bypassing your father, for example. And that way they would still qualify for the benefit.
Okay,
And have the
excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
So Ted, if somebody's already receiving some VA benefits and then they apply for the aid in attendance, does that conflict with anything? Can they continue getting their veterans benefits?
Depends on what benefits you're talking about and how much they're getting. For example, a lot of folks are, let's say, service-connected disabled, and that benefit is done by percentages. So you're only allowed one VA benefit. The higher of the two is what you would keep. So if you're receiving the maximum 100% disability payment, that's like $3,000 or more a month, you wouldn't qualify for the aid and attendance. However, if you have the disability with aid and attendance, they will bump that up, your disability payment, by a couple $100 for the aid and attendance, because you need the assistance.
That's what I have to say. Call Ted. Ted will answer that question for you.
Yeah, there's so many different benefits and programs that the VA has available that you need to make sure that they don't conflict with each other.
Saeed, do you have a question?
Yeah, good morning. So I have a client, he's 90 years old, and I've been trying to get him, I think the family, the daughter called the VA, and she was told that he is over asset limit.
Right.
128, and because he has quite a view of savings and cash. So what is the way around that?
Well, they're very limited as far as that goes, as I was saying previously. I mean, you can't transfer the assets to an irrevocable trust anymore without going through the look back period. You can't give it to your children without going through the look back period. It depends on how much we're talking about here. If it's a sizable amount over, I normally just tell people, just go through the spend down period. But let's say you have $300,000 or something like that. So you're a couple $100,000 over. We have a program that we use with Medicaid, and it's also qualified for VA. And it's an investment in properties here in Florida. It's an irrevocable investment. Goes to the beneficiaries after the person's death, and it receives between 3% and 4% interest on the payments to the family. I don't want to go into real detail with it, but it is available for those folks that do have some assets over and above the $131,000 limit. There is also a prepaid funeral trust But in that case, you know, that's limited. $15,000 for the individual, 30,000 for individual and spouse. So it's, you know, we can shelter that, put it that way.
So Ted, if there was somebody who was a veteran and they have a child who has special needs, is there anything for that child?
Yes, sir. The exact, it would be the veteran with one dependent, okay? They would be able to receive what is known as the dependence indemnity compensation and or the aid and attendance benefit for that disabled child, yes. So you were asking me before about the retroactive payments and so forth. So the application process is pretty extensive. And so the way the VA works this out is they say that the effective date of your claim is the first day of the month following the date of your application. So if I put in an application in the month of November, the effective date of the claim will be December the 1st. If it takes till June to be approved, they'll pay back to December the 1st, whatever those benefits happen to be. So it could be a sizable amount that you get retroactively based on that. Now, some of you folks were talking earlier about your father is 94 and 95 years old. Those World War II veterans, we're kicking those claims out in less than a month in most cases because of their age and the scarcity that we have with our World War II veterans anymore. But an average claim, I normally tell my clients it takes 3 to 6 months to process because it is a process. It's not just a, you know, send the application in and you're approved.
And people can go, they can do it on their own, right? Or they could use somebody like yourself.
That's correct. You can, an individual can take that challenge on and put it on, do it themselves. They can go to a veteran service officer. Most counties have the veteran service offices available. And where you can go to someone like myself, the VA accredited claims agent that does the claims.
What else? Go ahead, Linda.
So Ted, you just mentioned you're a VA accredited claims agent. So do you provide the service? Is there a fee for your work?
I do have a fee.
Okay.
To do the not only the claims, but the planning and everything else that goes in it, the audits. Normally there's an annual eligibility verification report that needs to go out. So I do have a one-time fee. My fee is $750. So it's, you know, less than 1 month's payment normally. Claims today are running 40 pages that we have to submit, you know, so they get kind of complicated.
And do you work with people who are out of state?
I can, yes. As long as they have computer access, we can normally get everything completed anywhere. It's a federal benefit, so the benefit's the same no matter where you're at.
What else? Anything else? You all, these are really good questions. Go ahead, Patty.
I'm sorry, but just to reiterate, the prepaid funeral trust, how much was that? 1,500 or
15,000
okay.
is the maximum you can qualify for, and if you have a spouse, you can double that.
Okay.
Ted, did you serve?
Yes, sir. I served during the Vietnam era. It was in the Air Force for 4 years, a little under 4 years, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead, Robbie. I think you're muted.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess my question is just this. My dad has quite a bit of money. I mean, more than 300, more than 500, more into the millions. Do I just leave this alone?
Yeah. I mean, that's what, how old's your father?
95 coming on this Saturday.
Well,
And he's been living with an aide that we've just paid, you know, private aid, but since COVID, boom, he's been in the hospital and rehab and now we're moving him to Keystone in Florida. But he does have, my father's a wealthy man. Aren't we lucky?
yes, you are. And God bless him and thank him for his service. But if it was me, I would just probably let it go.
Okay. But I love it. I appreciate the information. I'm going to keep listening as we go.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, did I ask the right question for you?
So I have a question.
Go ahead, Saeed.
So working with you versus working with an elder law attorney who does VA, what's the comparison? Like, which is better?
Well, I can't draw up legal documents. You know, if somebody needs an irrevocable trust, you know, I can't do that. I normally recommend elder law attorneys for that if that's going to be the case. Like, for example, we were talking about the transitioning to selling a home to do that irrevocable trust. You know, I'd get an elder law attorney to do that trust. But yeah, other than that, if they're going to file, most of the attorneys I work with don't want to do the claims. You know, they want to do the legal work, but they don't want to do the claims. So normally they want me to do the claims instead. You know, so it's normally what it is.
And you have attorneys you work with?
Yes, I do. Sure.
Okay. And because I'm in Houston, so if I have a family, can I come to you for claims, or are you only doing Florida's claims?
No, I can do them anywhere. Like I said, as long as there is computer access, I can email PDF files to them and they can scan and email them back to me. That's fine.
Okay. So one question I have is, one of the attorneys that had presented, and they said that you cannot charge for an application, like a VA application. Like,
That's correct. And when it ends up is my application is basically pro bono. All the ancillary work and follow-ups and EVRs is what basically gets charged for.
and do you also, when the family pays you, do you also do the recertification? I believe every year or so.
Correct.
You have
Yes.
to.
Yeah. Yes. It's all. It's just a one-time fee. I mean, you know, I got to keep the lights on. So.
Okay. So then you will automatically follow up on every year just to make sure the benefit is not dropped.
Correct. They'll get notified if the VA is going to require an eligibility verification report. We're going to know about it, and I'll complete that, you know, without a problem.
I have found, you know, when I refer my clients to TED versus them trying to do it on their own, it's just so much smoother because, you know, you could go do it on your own and maybe there's not a charge, but you might not, you know, dot the right I or cross the right T, and it gets tossed back at you. And so at least TED knows his way through all that.
I mean, there are a lot of in Houston, there are a lot of I call them fly by the night kind of people. Like most of them are insurance agents who are basically VA application is a hook for them, and I just feel that
used to be a lot of people doing that back before the VA changed their rules. I've been doing this for like 18 years and have been accredited with the VA for quite a long time. So again, you know, you just need to feel comfortable with whoever you're working with when it comes.
Can we get your like contact information for future follow-ups?
Sure.
What is it, Ted? And I'll be sending out a recorded version of all this. So.
Okay. My website is www.carefundingsolutions.org. My email address is tacapuano@yahoo.com. And my phone number, I'll give you two of them. My 239-671-8527. And then my toll-free number is 800-849-4807.
Thank you. Bruce, you have a question? Patty?
Yes, you mentioned death benefit. Does that mean funeral expenses? Does that apply to everyone or only the people with limited money?
I'm sorry. Are you talking about the irrevocable funeral trust?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, no, I mean, anybody can do that. It's a program that's eligible or qualified for Medicaid and VA. We can shelter X amount of dollars if you put the money in there. So $15,000 for an individual, up to $30,000 per couple. The way it works is you put the money in, and it's in this irrevocable funeral trust. It'll grow yearly a little bit. When the person passes, then you draw the funds to pay for the funeral, and any excess funds goes to the beneficiary. So the money is going to be used one way or the other, but it's sheltered from my calculations when I'm doing VA benefits, or if I was helping somebody with Medicaid, then I can shelter that money for them as well.
thank you.
Patty?
Yes, I don't mean to leave the topic here, but you know, if I do, just tell me. But going back to where you spoke about the spouse, the surviving spouse of a VA vet, World War II vet. Now, if they're in their own home, their income is compared to what kind of what they're putting out for aid.
Correct.
Home care. And so that's how it will, it's just the home care and like visiting
Well, we'll
nurses.
try to dig for it. We'll try to dig for any unreimbursed medical expenses that they may have. You
Right.
know, like I
Okay.
said, we do count the Medicare Part B premiums, the Medicare
Mhm.
supplement premiums.
Mhm.
They may have, if they have ongoing prescriptions that are the same pretty much every month, then so
Mhm.
let's say they're $200 a month out of pocket, we can calculate that as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then, of course, then their cost of care.
Their home aides that come in
Their
each
home
day.
aides that come, and it, you know, home health aides are not going to be there 24 hours a day,
Right,
7 days a week normally. So
right.
somebody's taken over that position when they're not there.
Mhm.
So let's say we did have too much income, even after we pay the home health aide, we can have a son, daughter, somebody else that we pay that excess money to,
Mhm.
and get them still to qualify for the full benefit.
Okay,
So
so
that-
there would have to, there would have to be an exchange, a monetary exchange between that
Yes.
person and their daughter, and it would have to be considered as income for the daughter.
Yes,
And-
that's true as well.
Okay.
You know, there's no paper trail on that money, but it is considered income because you're actually employing them to be a caregiver.
I got you. Interesting. Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Ed, Ed,
Great,
you have a
thank you.
question?
Yes, it did. Thank you,
Ed?
Ted,
You're welcome.
Bruce.
Ed, you had a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to go over the income test again. I'm a married vet, and I think you said the limit is $22.95 a month. So if you
For
make
income?
more, if you make-
No, the income test, the income is a relationship between how much you have coming in versus how much you have going out. So income, the VA looks at your gross income before taxes or any other deductions. Then from that gross income, they're going to subtract all your unreimbursed medical expenses, which again would include the cost of care. If you're in a facility, it includes room, board, and care. Medicare Part B, Medicare supplements, recurring medical expenses that are not covered by any insurance. We deduct that from your income. The end result is going to tell us what level of benefit you're eligible for. The figures I gave were the maximum benefits, but the benefit could be you could still receive a benefit. It just might not be the maximum, depending on how that income test works out.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw out some numbers here.
Sure.
If I had $5,000 a month of income
Yep.
and I had $3,000 of medical expenses, so
Okay.
the net is 2,000. Now, where does that leave me?
As an individual.
A married vet.
Okay. Well, so you're 2,000 over, right? In income. You have more income than you have unreimbursed medical expenses by $2,000.
Right.
The maximum benefit for a married veteran is $2,295. So I
Okay.
subtract your 2,000 from
Oh, I got
that.
it.
So you'd be eligible for like $295.
$95 a month. Got it.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
thing is, you need to let me find you an expensive assisted living.
Got it. Thank you. All right.
Patty?
We,
And that's that's easy to do. to
yes,
find-
it is.
That's very true. Yes.
You know, I do have clients, you know, the benefit is what it is, but I do have clients that are in facilities. They do have somebody else coming in as a third party and paying for them as well
Mhm.
for an unreimbursed medical expense. Because again, assisted living is not, that means you're
Nursing care.
somewhat independent, but you need some assistance. So it isn't 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week care.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
you could still maybe use somebody to help on off days or so forth. So again, we try, that's one of the reasons why folks pay me, is to help with this planning process, to try to give them the maximum benefit that I can based on their situation. So that's part of the planning process.
Mhm.
Yes.
Just a minor question. This irrevocable funeral trust, is that something that my father would be? I mean, we put the money in, you're saying, right?
Yes.
We put the money in. So we could do that for him if that, is that a lot of paperwork too?
No, it's not a lot of paperwork, and it's, you know, it's all guaranteed. I mean, I don't see the need for it for your father. I mean, we don't need the shelter assets. The 15,000 sheltering for him is not going to,
You're right.
you know, not going to do much.
His aid has taken enough from him that we should just let it go. Just move him on to Naples. Where
Well,
there's
Bring them
family.
on over.
You know, I'm sure he worked hard all his life to accumulate all the funds he did accumulate, and you hate to pay him out on unreimbursed medical expenses, but you know, these
okay.
benefits, these government benefits are limited in their scope. So you just have to understand that part.
I do.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
So when you have an income of 6,300, but you are putting out 7,300 for this enhanced assisted living, so now you would meet that qualification.
Well, now you would be eligible for the maximum benefit.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
As long as everything else falls into place, you know, then the maximum benefit is what
Mhm.
the person would receive. That's what our goal is to try
Right.
to get them up to as close to that maximum benefit as possible.
Mhm. Mhm. Interesting.
Ted, this has been great. Great information you're sharing. Again, I'll be sharing everyone Ted's contact information. So if you have very specific questions for Ted, please reach out to him. He's very responsive. And
Mhm.
so, you know, Ted, I really appreciate all this. I'm sure all of us, everyone here appreciates your insight to this. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
So our next webinar will be November 19th in 2 weeks. And I actually have a representative from Bright Star Home Healthcare Company coming in, kind of talking a little bit more about home care and services that can be brought into your home, or as Ted was saying, if you're living at a senior living community, maybe you need some extra help. So I have someone from our Bright Star Home Care Company going to be representing. So that should be very interesting. So, and also, you know, if you know of anybody that has any senior housing questions or needs my services, please reach out to me. I love referrals. And so I appreciate everybody's support, and I know everybody enjoys these webinars, and I want to keep them going. And so stay well out there. And yes, Robbie,
So if I'm on your list, I'm on your list now, because I didn't know that you did these.
you're on my list.
Thank
If you're on my list, you're on my list. And so I send out a lot of email blasts and try to invite people to all this, because I want to be, I want to provide these services for people. I really find educating people about what's out there and how to pay for things and how to, so
I feel my stress level going down a little bit.
there we go.
Thank you.
There we go.
That's what we
Thank
need, less
you, Bruce.
stress.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you, Bruce,
Thank you.
and thank you for your service, Ted.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
That's
that.
beautiful
you.
what you put together.
We'll be in touch, Ted. Your lawyer will see my lawyer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Both of
Thank you, Ted.
Both of you guys. Thank you, Bruce
Have a
and
great
Ted.
day.
Thank you,
care.
Bruce.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.